Hello, my name is Isabelle Langley and I am here to interview the lovely Michelle.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Isabelle.
My first question is, do you think that it is harder for people to transition in their adult life than it is in their childhood?
I love that you and I have actually had this conversation off air before
Yes.
this. Everyone has different levels of support around them, but for the majority of adults, it's a little bit harder, as we've discussed, because we don't have a guarantee on support around us from family and friends and work, etc.
Yeah.
Whereas a child, you probably have more support from family and your medical practitioners and things up until youth age, which is 26.
No, yeah, I totally agree.
Well, yeah, because you know we just because as you and I have said, you know, we're very honest and open here, the two of us. As we've talked about before, this is you never really get the chance to have a trans youth and an adult sit and have a really honest conversation together. You and I hate these words, passing and whatever. So you have passing privilege, where you know the majority of life, when it comes time for other rules and changes and issues, you'll face different things than what I have as an adult because you'll skate through life a little easier in some ways, but probably harder at a later time.
Okay, so like you said before, you don't agree with the word passing, neither do I. Do you care to speak a little more to that?
Well, I think it comes down to everything to, you know, some folks worry so much about everything from the millimeters between their nose and their upper lip of what is considered feminine or masculine. But even like me sitting here right now and you, right? Here we are. I've got my old men's jacket with this basic t-shirt. Earlier my hair was up. I have minimal makeup. I'm running Converse shoes, and you're wearing a bit of lacy, frilly, whatever. But as you and I have said, you know, this is what society says we should or shouldn't be wearing as women. And I have so many other trans women, or even trans men, or even gay men, or folks who go, Michelle, you're a woman now. It's okay. You can dress as a woman. I'm going, but I'm dressed as a woman. How's a woman supposed to dress?
My problem with the word passing is that it's almost like we're wearing a costume.
Yes.
And if someone's saying you're not passing, your costume's not good enough, honey.
Yeah.
You need a...
It's either there's a fail or a pass, and there's no in between.
What's the opposite of passing? Failing. How do you find it being a trans parent?
You know, different people have different ideas of what the parenting sort of nickname should be. So mom or dad.
Yeah.
And there's always the different things like the mappas or the different names that come up as a parent. My daughters, I was dad when they were born. And it's funny, no one's really asked me this before. I like this.
Keep you guessing.
Exactly. Well, keep you on my toes. And so I respect their mom. Their mom is their mom. And I don't want to take that experience away from her. And so I don't want my kids to never be able to chance to call me dad because that was mine. I earned that. And so, but it's she and her. So like, where's dad? Well, she's in the toilet, you know? So that's the conversations we have in our house, literally. But even things like my voice, you know, there's certain things that I feel belong to my children. It's like my voice, for example. I don't go and change my voice. Well, my voice is how it is now, but this is the same voice that sang to them when they were born. I sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I remember holding Early, and that's what, you know, and so I'm dad, and I can't have that taken from me.
I love that.
But it's hard.
Yeah.
When you go to, like, say, you're in Kmart, and you're in, say, I was going to say Walmart, but Big W and some of the others, and there's like, Dad, what about this, Dad? And it completely outs you, but this is my life and this is my experience, and so I don't take any shame in that, and we just roll with the punches.
I come from a really accepting family,
Yeah.
and I think that's made things so much easier for me coming out as young as I did.
Yes.
I know you don't have the best relationship with your parents.
No, I don't.
And I'm really sorry about that. Do you reckon if they were more supportive, do you think you would have come out earlier?
Yeah, I think if they were more supportive. My stepdad, who was more of my dad growing up, he was he passed several years ago, and he was very homophobic.
I'm so sorry.
And he wouldn't have accepted what, you know, who I am. He probably would have accepted it because of who I am now, based on the achievements that I've made as Mama Mish. He probably would have seen that as a oh, you know, there's leadership, there's achievement. He would have found, you know, something in that. My mom had ultimate issues because of religion. We had a good period there. We got along really well, but she became really nasty and decided that she didn't believe in who and what I was. my brothers and my sister, again, a further story. If I had further acceptance as a child, I probably would have. But then, the flip side of that, if I had come out when I was younger, I may or may not have had those two beautiful daughters that are basically around your same age as well.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't have had the chance to be dad. And I would have been a totally different woman than who I am now.
You wouldn't, like...
I wouldn't have been Mama Mish.
You wouldn't be who you are. That's why I think that's amazing. Like, you should never regret anything you've ever done in your transition, because you wouldn't have these amazing things. Like,
No.
I love that.
One small thing can change your complete perspective on life and how it should turn out.
So how do you view the difference of advocacy between my generation and yours?
Really big. That's a big.
It's
difference. It's a big one. Everyone's watching.
It's a lot of pressure.
Well, you know, we came from a generation of hiding.
Yeah.
Right? And so I told you about a story of, within the work that I do as a liaison officer helping with employment, I have been a bit of a ferret going into different spaces and trying to find all the different stories I can to build a picture for the project that I'm working on. And one of the most contrasting was on a Friday night going to an event that was being held at the back of an industrial estate where these folks were still hiding and not out fully. And there's this self-pressure, this self sort of discrimination. I wouldn't say transphobia, but there's just that issue of, I won't fully pass, I won't be accepted, I'll lose my job, I'll lose my family, I've got too much going on.
Yeah.
Where changing, that's a little bit of a harder conversation to have, you know? Like right now, if I took a chance of never having a job again, and I didn't have anybody's couch I could have just crashed on and slept on, you know what I mean? Where if you have a false start getting into uni after this, maybe if you got outed by somebody or whatever, you could still sleep in your parents' couch. You know, you still have your bedroom to come home to, and all those sorts of things. Not saying it's easier, not saying it's harder. I'm just saying
you have that safety net.
There's a little bit of a safety net there.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the things you might face, if I were really to start thinking of this in a bigger picture lens, because it's something I haven't really thought about before. You know, the reality is you might face a bigger issue when it comes to reproductive rights around that kind of stuff. You know, the sciences will start changing as well. There'll be some issues around that. You know, I think there was talks around, what do you call it, wombs. There was a woman who had a womb transplant.
A uteral transplant.
Yeah, uteral transplant.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what does that look like in your future? You know what I mean? So the rights and the things we're going to start changing going forward. I mean, when we've talked about toilet rights, it's your generation that's had to go to the Supreme Court talking about your rights for toilet. Well, we've never had to do that. Like, we've just been using the toilets for decades and then some. But all of a sudden it's a big issue, and you as a youth and a student at school going to a federal court talking about your rights to use a toilet. And
it's almost, I think a lot of the toilet things have come around because we're children and we're going to the toilet with other children. Yeah. And their big issue is, oh no, they'll be in a closed off stall next to my daughter.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. But the other thing as well is, like, even things like surgery, you know, like you won't be able to do certain surgeries until you hit 18 and blah, blah, blah. But
there's a lot more waiting involved.
But even with us, we have to go through the whole same waiting period and same, you know, psychological evaluation, and go and even have a breast augmentation, where any cisgender woman can walk in and go get her nose done, her boobs done, her eyes done, her Botox done, her everything done, and we have to have this grocery list of checkoffs. So same thing for us as for you. So I would say for you, it's probably, I'd say the reproductive thing is probably going to be your future. No,
I completely agree. I think that will be where it's probably going to be one of the next big. Well,
Minister Langley, you run for, you know, you're looking at politics for your future. You'll be running this for us. So.
In terms of, and I've already kind of asked this, but in terms of outside of familial support, just community support and those sorts of things, I know there is a big difference between my generation and yours, because there are so many groups made by parents for trans children, and there's so much around that to make us feel like we have people like us. Yeah. And I feel like, at least from what I've observed, at least from what I've observed, I don't think adult trans people have the same privilege.
No, not many of us actually have organizations to go to. Once you hit over the age of like 26 to 28, there really isn't a group that brings people together. There's a massive issue with social isolation once you get past that age period and then beyond. So it doesn't like stop at a certain point. There's really no going out. There's folks who are just wanting just to go out and meet other people just like them. They're too afraid to just leave the front door, going to Coles or just going to wherever. And so that's something we really need to start looking at, is creating organizations and groups. Now, like I have tried to create a local family group where I'm based out in the western suburbs of Melbourne called Northwest Rainbow. And so the idea is to engage with, say, local council and get, say, discounts for things like bowling or whatever, and start bringing people out and start socializing and just being part of society again. But again, you know, sometimes it's like pulling teeth because people still don't know if it's an inclusive place. What about toilets? What about... So it is something that's really an issue.
And it doesn't help that the older generation of trans people certainly have a lot more history with discrimination than mine do, because we've only been alive so long. But they, you know, especially trans women, like there's been abuse from complete strangers and police, and I think there's certainly that fear doesn't help in terms of creating more of a community. And
that's where a lot of us as adults are going in and actually working with like the police and stuff. So there are things changing in there and some of those spaces that we're really trying to make a difference. And hopefully that we as adults are creating enough of a buffer so that you can focus on your studies, so that you can, you know, achieve, you know, your goal of becoming a politician, and so you can go and look after us even further going forward. You know, you are doing that is that you are an investment in our future as well.
So on behalf of my generation to yours, I'd like to thank you for just paving this pathway for us and letting us know that we're going to be okay. And
well, I also want to say thank you as well, because you guys really are helping make a change and helping us define some of the language as well, and some of those changes for us too. So it does go both ways, so thank you as well.
Well, this has been Ben TV. My name is Isabelle Langley, and thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Isabelle. Talk to you soon.